Hey everyone, it's Jamie. 2021 has certainly been a year full of new experiences, learning and growth, and I've learned many life lessons along the way. Today I'll be sharing with you 15 life lessons which I've learned this year. And these lessons have been learned through lots of mistakes, experiences and realizations that I've had throughout the course of this year. And I by no means have any authority to talk about this. I don't want to be a guru, and a lot of this stuff is just stuff which I've thought about and made up, and I honestly don't even follow this advice a lot of the time, and I'm a big hypocrite. But let's get on to some of the lessons I've learned this year. One of the biggest lessons that I learned this year is that life is unpredictable. 2021, to say the least, was an unpredictable year for me. In the age of a pandemic, life is really unpredictable, and in August this year, Auckland went into lockdown for a total of 3 and a bit months. And in an instant, all of my plans and sense of stability was just completely thrown out of the window, and lots of things got cancelled. Even my exams and things which I thought were set in stone were subject to change, which was quite difficult to me. But it really just taught me the lesson that you really don't know what to expect in life. In saying that links very well to my next lesson, which is to appreciate the little things. In an unpredictable world where we're constantly seeking milestones and goals, I think it's important to also appreciate the little things in between. As life is unpredictable, we should appreciate and savor the current moment to its fullest and make the best out of the current moment. This might be through appreciating the small things which bring us tiny joys in life, such as the laughter of friends, watching the sunset, or the taste of your food. Another big lesson I learned this year is that you have entire control over your responses. I think it's pretty easy to live a passive life and feel powerless against your circumstances, be it the pandemic and other bad things out of your control. And it certainly feels like you're being constantly battered by the ocean into a pile of rocks. I was certainly like this at the start of the year, and I felt like I didn't have much control of my circumstances and life. However, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning really did change my perspective on life. In Man's Search for Meaning, the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl is sent to various concentration camps during the Holocaust. Everything is taken away from him. His dignity, identity, and his family is stripped away from him. However, in these exceptionally bad circumstances, Frankl is still able to find liberation in his response to the suffering. Frankl finds meaning through thinking about what he wanted to do after the concentration camp and his manuscript about logotherapy. This was very enlightening to me because, as I already noted, life is very unpredictable and it will throw curveballs around the way. For example, we're forced to deal with bad situations which are beyond our control and just really suck, such as a pandemic or losing a loved one. However, after this book, I felt a better sense of control over my life, as I realized I have the entire freedom to control my very own responses. Instead of living a reactive life, I could choose to live a proactive life. Like, for example, with the lockdown, instead of being angry with my circumstances and angry that I couldn't get out of the house and I couldn't see my friends and I couldn't do anything that I love, I could still make the best out of my circumstances through using that time to focus on my YouTube channel, studies, and learning new skills. A really great quote which resonates with me by Viktor Frankl is that ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather must recognize that it is he who is asked. In a word, each man is questioned by life, and he can only answer to life answering for his own life. To life, he can only respond by being responsible. Another big lesson which I learned this year is to not delay happiness. As a goal-motivated person, I find it pretty easy to delay being happy. I'll say, I'll let myself be happy after exams. I'll let myself be happy after I get 100 subscribers. I'll let myself be happy once I do the half marathon. However, this disregards the days in between and does not allow you to be happy with where you are in the current moment. I think this is a bit of the cycle of life. Like, we keep delaying being happy. Like, I will be happy after I finish high school and university. I'll be happy after I get this job, after I get this house. I'll be happy after I get this promotion. I'll be happy after I retire. And then too late, we realize that we've spent our whole lives chasing the pot of gold of happiness and never really experiencing it. And I feel like we spend so much of our precious time and money in the pursuit of happiness and chasing it rather than just experiencing it, with companies selling you the idea that buying their product will make you happy, or spending ages to reach this goal which you think will bring you happiness. A great quote which aptly notes my thoughts around happiness Happiness is by Sam Harris. He notes that the punchline of life is really that you can't become happy, you can only be happy. Instead, in my opinion, rather than focusing on outcomes, we should just appreciate the journey and every day and allowing us to be happy. This should just be appreciating the simple things in life and having gratitude to what you already have. In reality, life is just a collection of days. But sure, there are some big moments such as winning awards and reaching milestones. But for the rest of life, it's just the mundane everyday, which we should appreciate to the fullest. Another lesson which I learned this year is that material possessions don't make you happy. I feel like I'm going to become a really big hypocrite on this when I'm older. This is also something I'm very conflicted on as a tech YouTuber and someone who loves their cool gadgets. As a tech savvy person, I'm constantly on the lookout for new cameras, phones, and computers. And I have a never-ending list of things that I think that once I get this, I'll be happy, such as a new monitor or a new pair of headphones. And I feel like in our society, culture and just corporate messaging bombards us with messagery which promotes the idea that material possessions are correlated with happiness and that through buying their product and acquiring more things, you will become happy and live a fulfilled life. But I don't think this is the case, and many wealthy people have proven that money can't buy you happiness. And I can personally relate to the sentiment of buying my own things. Yes, when I do get that cool gadget, it does make me happy temporarily. After using it for a couple of days, I just become accustomed to it and it no longer excites me and it no longer brings me happiness. And I move on to the next thing which I want. Like for example, this year, I was waiting for a couple of months to pull the trigger on a 34-inch ultra-wide monitor to level up my productivity desk setup. And yes, when I got it, I was ecstatic and I absolutely loved it. However, after a couple of days, it became a meh thing and it no longer brought me happiness. And I had to chase the next thing which I thought would bring me happiness, which were a pair of Sony XM4s. Ironically, I broke that monitor after 8 days and I can say that I don't really miss it that much. I also got a pair of Sony XM4s and those also did make me happy for a couple of days, but I quickly got used to it and it no longer made me happy. And I sent them off to be repaired, but they got lost in the mail and I got a replacement pair which I sold because I can say that I don't need them. And this is because of the hedonic treadmill. The hedonic treadmill describes the tendency of humans to return to a baseline level of happiness despite significant life changes. A good example of this is with a study of 22 lottery winners and found after a few years they felt a similar level of happiness before and after that life-changing event. Going on, I'll try to stop deriving my happiness from external metrics and material possessions. We'll see about that because I just dropped $450 on a new monitor yesterday, so I'm a pretty big hypocrite and I still want to acquire more tech for this YouTube channel. The hedonic treadmill also applies to awards and goals. Yes, after you get that trophy or award, you do feel very happy for 5-10 seconds. However, after that, you just feel empty inside and there has to be something else that you're striving for, something else that you're wanting, and ultimately, it doesn't bring you lasting happiness. As a tech YouTuber, this is something which is really conflicting me and I'm wondering if I still should even make my videos because I feel like I'm having a bit of a negative influence on society as I'm promoting consumerism by showing cool pieces of tech which I insist that people need and has significant environmental consequences, in addition to encouraging people to buy things which they probably can't afford and don't need. Another lesson or thing that I've been thinking about this year is what is productivity? I do feel a bit guilty as I glorify productivity through my videos about studying. I think I'll continue to do that too. I used to think of productivity as simply outputs and completely neglecting the inputs, therefore sacrificing my happiness, health, and relationships. I used to spend hours on end in front of my computer thinking that I was productive. However, books such as Cal Newport's Deep Work have really changed my perspective around productivity. Rather than measuring input as hours worked, I think it's more important to think of meaningful outputs over time instead. I often think I'm really productive just because I spend so much time studying, but when I really look at what I'm doing, maybe 20-30% of the time is actually in a flow state and getting some real work done, and the other 70 to 80% of the time is in a semi-distracted state by checking my email, organizing my files, tidying up my bedroom, and watching YouTube and going on Reddit. Instead, I feel like we should focus intensely on the important tasks at hand, and through focusing intensely, you can get more done in less time. A great way of doing this is through setting a productivity routine, creating time pressure like when you're writing an essay, and eliminating multitasking and distractions. And through this, you'll get to finish the task at hand in less time and have more time to do whatever you want to do with your life. Another lesson which I learned this year is the importance of rest. I used to think that rest was for mere mortals, and I would spend 10-ish hours a day in front of my computer being productive all day. I would essentially have no rest time, and every single moment out of every day had to be productive in some way, shape or form, and I rigorously scheduled every moment to ensure productivity. I was treating myself like a machine day in and day out, and throwing more work at myself. However, I found that we aren't machines and that we're just humans and we need rest. Without rest, it's like using a dull axe to cut a tree, and it's essentially pointless and very inefficient. However, by resting, you get to recharge your batteries and get better performance while being more balanced. A really big productivity lesson I learned this year is just to stop being distracted. I am a master of procrastination. I probably spend more time being distracted than actually focusing on my work. I felt like I was tethered to social media, Reddit and YouTube at the start of the year, and I couldn't go 5 minutes without going down a YouTube spiral, checking Reddit and the news, and I was constantly overwhelmed by the overflow of information, and I couldn't focus on anything. From the moment I woke up to the moment I was asleep, I would be on the internet. However, deep work and make time have changed my relationship with technology. Since reading those books, I've tried to live a far more focused life. Yes, I have slipped up a couple of times, but for the most part I am pretty consistent for the default. The biggest distraction when you're working is definitely the internet. It's got a never-ending catalog of engaging content which distracts you from what matters and fragments your attention. And to become more productive and get better work done, I suggest just completely block the internet. The way that I did this was through disabling Safari on my iPad and iPhone, not using social media that much as a default. On my computer, I use a blocker to block the internet, apart from important productivity websites such as my school website and past paper websites and coding websites. And sometimes I even go to the extent of blocking the whole internet. Sure, it is inconvenient for me in many ways, and it's harder for me to communicate with my friends, just grab that fact off the internet, but I think it's well worth it in terms of my productivity and just general life satisfaction, not being constantly distracted and overwhelmed by the internet. Also, as a content creator, I don't know what that means. I feel like I'm just adding to the noise and wasting people's lives. Like, I don't know why you're watching this video, bro. And in the past year, over 800 hours of my videos have been watched, and I feel like I'm just wasting people's times for my own selfish benefit of the clout, the subscribers, and the views. Another lesson I learned this year is to embrace silence. Our world is overwhelming. There is always something to do and somewhere to be. And if we do have a bit of free time, we spend it browsing the internet and over-consuming on content, rather than having time to reflect, think, and focus on what truly matters to us. And it feels like every second has to be productive, and you always have to have something to do. And there's no time for yourself to be alone with your thoughts and reflect on life. But through embracing silence, I found myself to be more relaxed and more content with the present moment. A couple of weeks ago, I forgot my earbuds while running, and I was just forced to be with my own thoughts rather than over-consuming on podcasts. And it got me to think about some lessons for this video, and also think about the direction of my life and the YouTube channel. And I had greater clarity of what I want to do later on with this channel. Another lesson I learned this year is that you have to make time. As someone who is too busy for my hobbies, it's very easy to procrastinate and wait for the perfect conditions. We can get taken away by the busyness of everyday life and not have time for the important things. We might have these goals such as learning to code, starting a reading habit, or learning a new instrument. Often we neglect these important activities after a couple of days with the excuse that I don't have enough time. But I think you actually probably do have the time, and you have to prioritize it if you think it's truly important. A great way of prioritizing what to do in a day is by using a to-do list. And this is great for prioritizing what you want to get done that day. And also, the daily plan the night before has also been pretty useful for me. It doesn't have to be complex, but it can be a good indicator of how you want to spend your time and do the important tasks. A lesson which I learned this year is to have a why. Having a purpose is integral to getting anything done, and without meaning and purpose, it's very hard to do things. Pretty much NZQA made exams optional for me, as I get the highest out of 2 grades of my derived grade exams and my external exam, and I already got 100 for all of my derived grade exams. I tried to force myself to study, but I just couldn't do it, and I just kept procrastinating and just wasn't bothered. I felt like it was meaningless and there was no point. No matter how badly I was doing at the exam day, I'd still be guaranteed the academic awards, which were my primary goal this year. I just kept procrastinating and I couldn't be bothered just due to its meaninglessness, which I had to confront. And I felt like Sisyphus just pushing a rock up a hill for no purpose whatsoever. However, on the flip side, having a big and meaningful goal is great for motivating you to get through the tough time. A great quote by Friedrich Nietzsche is that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. For example, I think I want to study computer science or something along those lines and maybe create a startup one day. Therefore, I'm motivated to spend hours in front of my computer attempting to learn to code. My next lesson is to break goals down. It is great to have big goals, drive, and purpose. However, it's very intimidating to even start. You might have the goal to start a business, write that novel, and learn that skill that you've always wanted to do. However, it's very ambitious and you don't know where to start, let alone being intimidated by the pressure to succeed. However, I found that by breaking goals into small and manageable steps which you can do every day is far more doable, and you're less likely to procrastinate as you have actionable steps which you can do day in and day out. For example, in my own life, I set this optional exam called Scholarship Media, which is normally given to students 2 years above me who have taken 3 years of media, and I've not taken media. And I spent 4 months procrastinating over it because it was such an intimidating task and I didn't know where to start. However, I started studying a month before and broke it down into small and easy tasks to do. Another lesson which I learned this year is that consistency is the key. I think that the day-to-day matters a lot when you're trying to achieve that goal. When pursuing goals, we often think that we have to take big measures to achieve these big goals. We feel that jolt of motivation and feel motivated to do that 12-hour day of study, wake up at 4 AM, meditate for an hour for the very first time, go to the gym for 2 hours. But rather than thinking of progress in massive strikes of motivation and these massive unsustainable measures which only happen sometimes, we should focus on making them realistic and sustainable for the day to day so that you can do it day in and day out. I learned this the hard way through my running. I'm currently training towards a half marathon, and when I was running 7 kilometers every day, me and my infinite wisdom decided to go running with my friend and we ran 15 kilometers. This was a massive step up for me and really stupid because after that 15-kilometer run, I couldn't run for the next month and I took a big hit to my performance. Had I just been consistent and sustainable, increasing my mileage slowly and steadily, I would have better performance as I wouldn't have to take that break. I also learned this through my academics. I would repeatedly study 8 to 10 hour days in the month leading up to exam, and I would not have any time to rest. And I eventually got burnt out and lost motivation in the middle of exams. Instead, I think it's far better just to have a small, manageable amount which you can do for a long time until exam, ultimately allowing you to achieve your goals. The next lesson I learned this year is to enjoy the journey. I'm stealing a page out of Ali Abdaal's spiel, but I found that one of the best ways to get myself motivated to do something day in and day out is to enjoy the journey. Through enjoying the journey, you no longer have to rely on motivation to get something done and you can just do something because you love it so much. An example of this is like with my study. I love the process of it and I can do it day in and day out. If I did it only for grades and didn't enjoy it, I would have given up really easily, as it's a lot of hard work and it would be discouraging to receive a bad grade. Another example of this is like me starting with this channel. Yes, I do like the clout, likes, views, and subscribers, but I also enjoy the process and I love being able to share my thoughts about life and tech, and it's probably one of the things which gets me up in the morning. If I did it only for the clout and the subscribers, I would have given up after my first video, which received pretty much no views apart from myself reloading it many times. Also, through enjoying the journey, you don't have to delay happiness to a future date or milestone, and you can enjoy the process. The last lesson that I learned this year is the power of persistence. I need a number 15, so here goes. And this sounds so cliche, but it's really important to not give up. Often in life, we are challenged with really hard and difficult tasks, where it's easy to give up and settle. However, persevering and challenging yourself is definitely worthwhile and allows you to do things which are unimaginable and allows you to grow to become your best self. For example, With this channel, there were times where I did want to give up, and it was very difficult, and I was very much out of my comfort zone in terms of speaking to the camera for my first couple of videos. It's something I'm still getting used to. However, I'm glad that I didn't give up, because it was really well worth it at the end, and I've gained so many new skills along the way, and I've really grown as a person. This is also similar for other challenges in life, such as schoolwork or physical challenges. Sure, in the moment, you are being challenged to the very limit of yourself, and it's easy to give up. Through persevering, you get to grow to become the best version of yourself, and it's well worth it looking back. And I think that instead of being comfortable, we should embrace challenges because they are an excellent opportunity for growth. That wraps it up for the life lessons I've learned this year. To those of you who are still watching, I really appreciate the support. I've got lots of great things planned for 2022, and I can't wait to see where the future takes this channel, and hopefully this video was interesting and provided some insights about my thoughts and life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next year. Bye!